Hi, welcome to the Armourgeddon channel. My name's Stuart Garner, and this is the fourth part of our restoration on our Stuart. As you can see, looking absolutely lovely now. She's pretty well finished. A bit later on in the video, you'll see her running around the field on her maiden voyage. But first, I'm going to show you around the inside of her, around the outside, give you an idea of exactly what we've managed to get done on her. I don't know if you remember our very first video of when we first got it. About 7 months ago it was now, and she looked nothing like this. Nothing was working on her, nothing moved, everything had seized. Even the bearings on the turret had seized. What we've had to do is take the turret off, take the engine out, take pretty well everything out of the vehicle, strip it down to the bones, and work our way back and rebuild it. One of the worst jobs was actually getting these bearings off and getting them working again. They'd actually seized absolutely solid. What you've got underneath there is a roller, and it also sits on 3 rollers inside. Everything could seized from lack of use and a lot of water getting into them. The roller bearings that it actually sits on underneath, we had them remade because the ones that were still in there were so pitted they weren't usable. One of the challenges we had was actually getting the gun back inside the turret. The gun didn't actually come with the tank, not actually fitted already. We got that separately. And to say it was a tight fit is an understatement. It actually has to go through a hole in the back of the turret, which if they made it half an inch bigger would have made life so much easier, but for some reason they decided to make it a bit more challenging for the gun crews. We will show you a little bit of footage of us actually putting the gun in, and as you'll see by the video, there is virtually no room in there. The lads are quite squeezed in. This is the hatch where the gun's fitted through. It has to slide in through here and then into its mount. Like I say, if they made it just a fraction bigger, it would have been a lot easier for us, but what we have to do is you push it in a little bit, you twist it a little bit, push it a bit further, twist it around a bit further. Quite a difficult thing, but we managed to do it with the help of the JCB. I mentioned the bearings area that the turret sits on. Well, this gives you an idea. When we first got it, couldn't move it at all, and now she moves very easily. Now, the Stuart light tank was deployed out into the desert early in the war with its 37mm gun. At the time, it was man enough and it could deal with pretty well anything the Germans had. It was fast and the gun was powerful. This is the shell from the 37mm gun. Doesn't look too impressive, but it did the job at the time. The only problem was the Germans came up with the idea of using their anti-aircraft guns against these vehicles and some of the other British armour. This is the shell from the German 88mm gun. Quite a difference. And what happened later on in the war as well, the 88mm gun was fitted to the German Tiger tank. So you would be going up against this and only having this to defend yourself. Even though the 37mm was outclassed quite early in the war, it was used on lots of vehicles still. They kept it in the M8 armoured car and even in the Stuart M5 Stuart light tank, which was basically the slightly better version of this one. I've actually been told by some of the old veterans that were over in the Desert War, when they were sitting in their tanks, because the desert was so flat and basically dust, when this gun was fired, it was fly over the desert and they could actually see it coming towards them, and all they thought was, I just hope it's not going to hit us. Now, I may look like I'm extremely strong by having to throw this around like this, but I've got a little secret here. This is actually a 3D printed model warhead, so they would normally have been a lot heavier. With the early Stuarts, what they actually did was fit 5 of these 30 caliber machine guns. A very effective weapon, but you had the one in here, you then had one in the sponson there, one in the sponson there, which were fixed positions, one in the turret, and then one on the top there on a mount on the back. What they found very early on, though, that the 2 in the sponsons there were pretty well useless. The only person that could aim them was the driver, because he had to turn the whole tank to face the way they wanted to shoot, and even just keeping them fed with ammunition proved to be pretty impossible. The ones in here, though, that one there had its own designated gunner. He sat in there, and he could control that and give a bit of protection. The one up in the turret, that was fired by the main gunner, so again, easy enough for the bloke up there to control. And then the one on the roof could be fired by anybody who was outside, so either your commander or even some soldiers standing on the roof. So 3 guns proved to be fine. 5 guns, impossible. Now, we were very lucky with the running gear on this. Road wheels absolutely brilliant. Everything else working fine, springs in good condition. Quite often when we buy these vehicles, the springs are broken, but on this occasion they were in good condition. We did have one little cheat though. As you can see with the track here, it looks quite rough on the inside. But what we actually did was we turned it around. So the inside is now on the outside and the outside is now on the inside. So even though it looks rough here, you can hardly see it, whereas on the outside there, it looks like brand new track. So it was a little cheat, but it just saved us quite a big chunk of money. One of the hard things, which anybody who has had to deal with these kind of tracks will vouch for, is taking these end connectors off. They were, each one of those has to come off, one on either side, and basically can be swapped over. The only problem is they've not been off for very, very many years, and they don't like to come off. So we have to hammer every single one of them off, clean it all up, and then put it back on the opposite side. We had to improvise with a few other parts. Some of the parts are absolutely unobtainable. We cannot get them. So, for example, this piece under here, this is your air filter, and it's an oil bath. These pieces here always rot out or have been taken off because they're only clamped on. Can't find them, so what this one here is a cake tin. It was the right size. We manufactured the inside to fit the oil into it, but there you go, even a little cheat just to finish it off properly. This is obviously the engine. This is the original engine that came with the tank. But what we did, we took it out and we sent this one away. We didn't have time to try and fix it ourselves. And to be fair, it's a bit of an art to get these running properly. So we sent this off to a gentleman down in London who sorted it out absolutely perfectly for us. She now runs beautifully. But what you can see is quite a lot of oil around. The reason for that is it's because it's a radial engine, and when it's not running, the oil all runs to the bottom cylinder. So what we have to do is we wind the engine 50 odd times just to get the oil circulated. But quite often there's, once you fire it up, it blows the oil out the exhaust and that drips everywhere until it's ran for a few minutes and it gets running nice and clean. So what you may see a lot of engine oil on these radial engines doesn't mean the engine is worn out, it just means it's a radial engine. This is a 7-cylinder radial. On a Sherman they fitted a 9-cylinder radial because obviously it's a bit heavier, so it needed a bit more horsepower. I think the horsepower on this is around the 240, so plenty of power to run this tank, which is weighing in at about 15 tons. So gives it a nice bit of power and a very good top speed. Talking about top speed, we're now going to show you a bit of footage of us actually running this the first time. Now we did manage to get up to 3rd gear, which considering none of us had ever driven one of these before was pretty good, and we're only running around a field, so really and truly to get any higher than that you really want to be on a road or some bit smoother ground. Very dusty. So if you have enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to our channel, and watch out for our next video, which is we're going to be getting back onto restoring our Jumbo, which is one of the rarest tanks in the world. So keep your eyes open for that one.